Hey, what's up, you guys? So welcome to the Postman crash course. Well, Postman's super useful. It's one of the greatest tools you can use if you're working with APIs at all, and if you want to be serious in the software industry, you need to know what APIs are and how to use them. So this tool will save you so much time. All right, we're gonna go over all the basics of Postman. We're gonna be going over how to use it, all the functionality, the whole UI, like what its uses are, and do a few examples and go through pretty much everything. It's pretty exhaustive, but not everything. But I mean, it'll be more than enough to get you started. So we're gonna be going over how to create mock servers, how to use variables, and how to send requests, all different kind of HTTP requests to any server or web server you can think of, any website. Getting all your responses back, all the analytics of it, all of the data and all the statistics that you get from it. There's just a bunch of stuff. It might seem kind of wordy now, but when we get into it, you'll see, and it'll be pretty great. So let's get started. Hey guys, so welcome to the video. Before we get started though, before we jump into it, I want to tell you that we have an epic free 3-part masterclass that teaches you how to go from being a complete beginner in programming, not knowing anything if you've never written a single line of code, and the steps you can take to become a 6-figure freelancer or a software developer. So if you want to learn how to go from there to there, click the link in the description down below. It should be down there. You just got to pop in your email address and your name, and we'll send you an email to the login page for that, and you can access it completely for free. And it ends with an exclusive webinar if you want to check that out too after the 3 parts. So I guess it's kind of like a 4-part masterclass, but definitely check it out. All right, it's just a lot of free value, and just we want to offer that to you. So check it out. All right, you guys, so let's get started with the Postman crash course. All right, so just a few prerequisites before we get started. To understand how to use Postman and everything I'm going to go over in this crash course, you're going to need to know about what APIs are, about what REST APIs are, what web frameworks and web servers and web clients are, and stuff like that. A lot of like online coding things and what HTML is and JSON and XML, and be familiar with all these terms in order to be able to follow along, because you need to understand all this stuff to even use Postman to begin with. So if you don't know that, then go back and learn how to do that first, and then come back to this. I will be explaining a little bit as we go, just to like jog your memory. So if you kind of know what those are and I mentioned things, and you will be okay, and things will come back to memory. But if you have no idea what those things are, then this crash course is not for you. You should probably close out and go learn those things first. Start with HTML and some other simple web stuff, and go up to frameworks and all that stuff. And then you'll be ready for actually testing APIs and stuff. And HTTP requests and stuff as well. That's very important to know. That's what APIs are based on. But besides all this prerequisite stuff, let's just get started, okay? So Postman. In a sentence, Postman is a tool that you can use to work with APIs. All right, so it basically allows you to test APIs, build APIs, and like create mock APIs, like servers, like mock servers or mock clients and whatever, so you can test them. So while you're developing, let's say you're developing a server or something, then you can test it with this tool to make sure everything's working properly, and vice versa. If you have a client, then you could create a mock server, or I mean, if you're trying to program a server, then you can use Postman as a mock client by sending requests to it, like HTTP requests to it and whatnot. But that's just a little overview of what it is. Let's just get started now. So we're going to want to download it first. You can either use the native app or the Chrome extension, but I realized that the Chrome extension is deprecated, as they're saying right here. But yeah, let's just go to their website. Here we go. So this is Postman. It's just an application we can use, and we're going to get into it very soon. All right, use cookies, got it. And pretty much what you need to do is just download it first, okay? So click download the app, and yep, just download it for whatever operating system you're using. I'm using it for Mac right now, and I already downloaded it. But yeah, so after you download it and you create an account and all that, then we can get started with Postman, okay? So go do that first. I'm going to continue on because I already have it downloaded, and I'm going to open up the Postman app right now, all right? So I have Postman over here. Open it up and get this started. Loading. Awesome. So it's loaded up. Perfect. Let's get this on a separate desktop. Cool. So now I can go between my browser here, my Chrome, and my Postman. So when you open it up, you should probably see something like this or something similar. You can just close out of this. We're just going to go straight to the UI. I want to show you all the basics first. Now that we have it downloaded, so I just want to go over all the UI and what all the buttons do and everything means, and kind of just give you a tour of Postman before we get into anything advanced. All right. So this is kind of like the basics crash course portion of the entire crash course. All right, so this is Postman. We are in Postman, and like I said, it's just a tool that allows us to work with APIs. We can send requests, we can create mock servers, and yada yada. Here we have all of the different requests we can do. So we can basically send any HTTP request. Here, get and post are the two most common ones, but of course you can use put and delete and all these other ones that we use occasionally, but mainly just get and post. All right, and then when you are wanting to test an API, then you can just use things here. So let's just give a simple example. All right, so let's just say we want to test this. So you just want to get Amazon.com, and you hit send. Then there we go. It grabs the code, the HTML code back from when we type in Amazon.com into a browser. We get all the HTML code back, and we can actually hit preview here, and you can actually see the actual website. So pretty much all Postman is just a tool that gives you a lot of like leverage and different ways to change parameters and whatnot to work with APIs and web servers and all this stuff. Okay, we're not going to be using Amazon.com. I'm just using this because everybody's familiar with the web page and then they understand how this is working. So if you use a GET request on their website, then boom, we get it right back. All right, but we're not going to be using this anymore. That was just for demonstration purposes. So now let's actually use an example and I'll explain what everything is as we go. Okay, so let's just do a GET request first. Okay, so let's I have this cool JSON placeholder website right here, which allows us to, it's a free open API where you can go into it and you get JSON back. It's just, that's why it's called JSON placeholder, but we're gonna be using that right now for these basics. Let's just start that. So yeah, you can choose your type of request here. We're just gonna do a GET request, and then when you hit send, it'll actually send it and get it back, just like we did with Amazon. So let's do that first, and we'll hit send. And as you can see, we get our JSON back. Okay, so if I actually pop this into Chrome as well, we would get the same exact thing, just like we did in Postman, and we just get some JSON back. All right, so JSON file, if you don't know what that is, then this will make sense, but this is JSON data and we're getting all of this back. All right, just like we are in Postman. But here we have all the different options here to view it. So we have pretty, which is cool because you can actually collapse the JSON data, or if it's XML data or whatnot, you can view the raw data, which is just a raw string with formatting. The preview, which is what it would look like in your browser. That's why when we went to Amazon.com, we actually saw the actual thing instead of just HTML code, because this is what it looked like in your browser. In Chrome, it's auto-formatted though, but I mean, that's just like an extra fancy thing that Chrome does, and most browsers do, but it's supposed to look like just this, just a raw string. Okay, and visualize beta, this, I don't know what that is. It's new, I haven't checked it out too much, but so if we are getting JSON data back, then this will automatically go to JSON. But of course, whenever we are using a GET request, then we can have all different kinds of data coming back. So whether it's XML or HTML, just like we did when we were requesting a web page or text in general or whatever. Also, when we are sending a GET request, then you can actually set your query parameters here. So this is your query string. Like if you want to say like, okay, parameters like something like user ID equals 6. Like if you're gonna have that in the URL when you're calling an API, then you can actually see that it auto fills it out for us here. But likewise, we can also do something like this, right? Like hello, this is a title, okay? And it'll auto fill it all out for us, and makes it very easy to construct these things. So you don't have to type it from scratch. So let's just get rid of that. But yeah, basically you can write our key value pairs here for any query string parameters. And you can also set your headers and your body here. Okay, so body is more important when you're actually doing post requests, right? But if you want to set your headers like content type or whatnot, then you can actually specify these here, okay? Or any other headers that aren't done by default, then you can add them in here, and it should actually be autocomplete, I think. Yep. So like if you have like content type or like content length or something or whatever, then you can just pop that in, and then yeah, that will be auto-generated for you. You can also toggle these on or off. So if it's on, then it'll be it'll be used. But if it's ticked off, then it's as if it wasn't even there to begin with. But it's just nice to have it there because this is a tool, so you want to make it easy to test APIs and all that. So let's go back. Oh, another thing I want to point out is you can actually save. So like I have this get request here, right? And I might have like a bunch of different query parameters and different headers and bodies and everything like set up in a certain way. And perhaps I want to keep testing it over and over again and I want to save it. Then you can actually save it here by using this button. Okay, you can save this request. But another thing is that there's a history of everything you actually sent. So we sent 2 get requests already. You can see the Amazon.com one and then the one that I just sent. So these will always be here and you can click on them and it'll actually take you, like, it'll open up another tab for you and allow you to look at the request that you sent. Okay, so that's nice if you want to go back in your history. It like keeps everything there. Of course you can clear it all, but yeah, let's continue. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention, whenever you are doing when you send an HTTP request, then it'll get you the status code back here. It'll also tell you how much time it took to do the request with all the stats there. You can see the DNS lookup and all that stuff. If you actually know what all that means, and also the size of the returning file, the response file. Okay, and then you can also save responses here. But yeah, I think you can also, when you send, you can actually send in downloads instead of just sending the request. Whenever you get the response, you can actually download this entire file separately. Okay, but that's only if you only want to download it. But I think that is pretty much most of it for the get. I think, did I go over this headers? Oh, this is the headers that we get back in the response. So we'll have the date that the response was sent out, the content type, of course it's application/JSON, and then we're using UTF-8, the char set, blah blah blah, and like all this other stuff. I don't know what all of this means, but I mean these are all the headers that we got from our JSON data, which is very clearly JSON data. Okay, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it for get. For get requests, let's now try post requests. So I believe in this open API, what we can do here is they actually have an open API where you can put posts. So now we can test post requests and we can send those out to this URL here and actually test post requests now. So let's just turn on post request. There we go. As you can see, the other get request popped up here when I called it again. But now let's do post, okay? So if we go into posts, of course we have our query parameters and whatnot. So let's just try this, sending a post out. As you can see here, they are expecting user ID, or that is an allowed key in one of the key value pairs on this API. So let's just pop that into one of the query parameters, okay? Let's just say user ID equals, I don't know, 6 or something. Or let's just put 2, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I don't know why I'm deciding, changing it. But we can put that. And whenever we send a post request, then what we get back is actually the ID of the post entry that was just created, okay? So when we hit send, we're actually going to see that the ID comes back of 101. And you can see the post request pops up here. But let's go back here. Let's go over some of the headers. Again, you can set your headers of what kind of content you want to be putting there or sending through, and any other header fields that you want. And of course, when we're doing a post request, you actually need to specify what's in the body. That's the most important part, okay? So within the body, we can actually send nothing, which would, I guess, do nothing. It's kind of useless, maybe useful in some cases. But form data, of course, is what we can do if you just want to send like JSON data up and down, which is kind of what we're doing here, by sending user IDs and whatever titles or whatever it has. I forget what was there. Let me see. If you add our user IDs or regular IDs or title or body and all this stuff. But when we're doing post, of course, we can send form data. We can send form URL encoded data or raw data, just straight string data, or even binary data. Okay, so if we want to actually upload images, then we could very easily just select an image to post to this here. Okay, if our API allows it, if whatever web server we are coding up or using or accessing, if we're maybe using, if we're coding our own web server, and if it allows it, then we can send it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we're sending a JPEG or something like that, if we're sending a binary JPEG, if we selected a JPEG image here or PNG something, then we could actually go here and change this. It could be like image slash JPEG or whatnot. And then that's how we could send a post request with an image. And then of course we would have to select the image file here. So you could just pick an image from your computer. But yeah. All right, well, I think that pretty much sums up most of the basics here. I think I went over pretty much all of the buttons. Of course, you can get the headers again from your post response. And test results, we'll go over that later, maybe. And what else haven't I seen? Oh, collections. Collections are just collections of different requests, pretty much, that you can put together. You can like create them and just kind of keep them organized if you want. Or you can just like do test one by one like we were here. This gets a little bit more advanced. Maybe we'll do that later. But I think I've gone over most of the basics here. So you guys should know how to send get and post requests and how to set all of your different parameters and whatnot, whether it be query string parameters or headers or your body and your body types and all these different things. And you should be able to see how to see what's coming back and whatnot. And it's just very useful if you are working with APIs and you're trying to like test, if you're like coding up a client side thing and you want to have a mock server or to like compare if things are working correctly, then you can use Postman to like create dummy requests or like mimic some of the requests and see if what's coming back is what you're expecting to come back and so forth. Basically, it just allows you to fake servers and fake clients and to make sure it's working correctly, just so you can test your APIs, whether you're building it or testing it or just using an API. But yeah, that covers all the basics, and I will see you in a few seconds going over whatever we go over next. All right, you guys, should be a few seconds later for you, but now I just want to go over really quick about bulk editing query string parameters and creating new requests and collections, creating collections and saving requests to collections. Still pretty basic, but I just need to go over it. It's a little bit more involved, but that's I'm going over it now. So let's say let's change this first. Let's just query Amazon.com again. I'm going to use this again. Amazon.com. All right. So we can preview it. We can see that we have the web page here and have the HTML code here. But let's say we wanted to actually search something on Amazon. Okay, so let's I believe on Amazon, if you just put S, that's the search URL. So now it's getting ready for a search, and then we just have to add into the query string parameter here. I believe it's K. I don't know why it's called K, but we can put anything we want in the value. So if, as you can see when we're typing it down here, it's auto completing the query string parameter. So we're going to say Amazon.com search, and the search term we're going to search for is iPhone. So let's just hit send. And if we click on preview, then you should actually see that iPhone was completed up in the search bar under all departments. And we can see a bunch of iPhones pop up. There might be like another parameter here for departments, like something might actually change what this is. Instead of like just all departments, you could go to like technology or something. I don't know. I guess there's something there that would make more sense for iPhone. But yeah, that's that. And let's say we maybe have another one. So maybe there actually is one. I don't think this is actually true, but let's say if we had like department, we could be like all or something. Okay, department equals all, and that could be like this. Now I want to show you bulk edit. So if you go to bulk edit here on the right, instead of having this nice interface using key value pairs, you can actually click on bulk edit here and see everything you have as just a string. And this is useful because you can actually just go in here and just copy and paste, or just copy it, and then you can actually go up here and click plus, and you can actually type in Amazon.com again, .com/s, and then down here go to bulk edit, and then just paste this in here and go back, and as you can see, it's all auto completed. So you can like copy requests that way. You can also just right click up here and duplicate the tabs, but that's actually not true copy. Sometimes like the names and stuff the names will always be the same or something like that. So I don't like using that. I always just create a new one from scratch, but let's just get rid of this one. Don't save it. Let's go back to this request that we had. Okay, so search for iPhones. Let's turn off the bulk edit mode. Going back here, so we have an iPhone search. Now let's talk about creating a collection and saving requests to collections, all right? So once we have a request here, we have a get request on Amazon just searching for iPhones, then we can click save over here, all right? And it brings up this save request little window. So in order to save a request, you actually need to create a collection. It's kind of just like a folder for a bunch of requests. I mentioned that a few minutes ago, but let's just click create collection down here, and let's just call it Amazon searches. All right, hit this little orange check sign, and now it's selected. If I click back on it, you can see all your collections here, and then this you can't save anymore. But when I select Amazon searches, I'm in here, and then now I'm able to save it to Amazon services. So the name of this request, it's going to be auto completed to whatever the URL is, the query string, but I actually just want to make it cleaner and say Amazon search, and I'm just gonna say iPhone, just like that. Okay, you can put a description if you want, but that's optional. Let's just put hello, sure, why not? And now we can just click save to Amazon searches. All right, so now we save this request. You can see the name up here changed to Amazon search iPhone, and if I want to change the name, then I can. If I hit this little down arrow, then you can see the description. You can also edit the description down here. You can even use Markdown, which is pretty cool. Save. We'll collapse this back up. So that's that. And now, now that we have our collection made, if we actually click on collections over here on the left, you can see that our Amazon searches collection was made, and it says there's one request inside. Let's just click on it, and as you can see, there's Amazon search iPhone. Okay. Now let's just create another one. Okay, so let's actually use this. Let's go to bulk edit and just copy all this. Not that much. I mean, you could actually just like type it in yourself, but if you had a bunch of these different parameters that you want to copy over, it's actually useful. Turn this off, go to this plus sign, create another one. Let's just say it's amazon.com/s again. Go into bulk edit, paste it in, go back. Cool. And now I don't want to search for iPhones anymore. Maybe I want to search for MacBooks. Okay. Or just MacBook. And now let's pop send. Sending the request, waiting for the response down here. Go down to preview. And as you can see, now we have our search results for MacBook. And if we scroll down, then there's a bunch of MacBooks available. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to save this too. All right. And I'm just going to go Amazon search, and it's going to be MacBook. Okay. And no description this time, okay? And then we have it selected. You can already see our previous one, iPhone, was created down here. You can see it faded out. And we'll just hit save, and boom, there we go. So that's how you save your searches, okay? So that way you don't have to keep typing it from scratch every time. You can close out of both of these. So when you open up Postman, and this is, this is Launchpad too. You can go here, and there's a bunch of other UI stuff, but later. Now we have our collections here. So we have our history, of course, which you can go through. You can delete all this stuff. Let's just delete these. Why not? Delete. Okay. So they're gone forever. But if you go to collections, then they're still here. I mean, you can delete these too by hitting these buttons, but now we have the ability to see these again. So when you click on it, they pop up. See, it's italicized though. So if I go to the other one, then they don't stay open. But if I want to keep it open, then you just can hit send, and then see it'll unitalicize right now after I send it. And then now when I select MacBook, then it just opens it up in another tab. There we go. So we have iPhone and MacBook, and you guys get the idea, okay? Well, that wraps up creating collections and saving requests and using the bulk edit mode. And I will see you guys in a few seconds again to go over whatever we go over next. All right, you guys, so now we're gonna go over variables in Postman. So variables are exactly what they sound like. They allow us to set variables and have those things change wherever those variables are. So if you have some variables in this URL here, like if we had something like a variable here or whatever, slash variable one or something, then we could actually set this variable somewhere else and then have it this be filled in with whatever the value of variable one is. So there's actually two different ways we can do variables. There are path variables and then path variables and then like real like global variables. I'll go over path variables first because it's very simple and straightforward. It's like a mini variable pretty much, only for paths in the URL. And then real variables are like variables that are like within Postman. Like you can set variables like within the entire app, so that whenever you change one of the variables, then in every single request everywhere, then that variable is change or something like that. Like they're very, very powerful. But let's go over the path variables first, which is very simple. This will make more sense as we get into it, okay? So we were using this nice API here. Let's just click this again, send a GET request to see what comes back, and we get a bunch of stuff. It's been a couple of days for me, so I might have already gone over this. I'm just kind of half refreshing myself and half reminding you if you're coming back or something. But all right, so we have this thing, and we have a bunch of posts here. All right, and if we could filter by perhaps, if we use ID, then we could then we could filter it like that and hit send, and then just get the one with all the user ID of 1, or the ID of 1. And also if we did users, then we also get a bunch of stuff here. And we can again filter by the ID of 1. Okay, send that, and boom, we have just this one instead of all of them. So now I want to point out that we are able to change the path here. So users here, we can actually change users to posts like we did before. And if we hit send again and get the response back, then we have a different post here. So perhaps we wanted to go through all the posts and users that have the same ID. Doesn't really make sense logically, but I mean, this is just for demonstration purposes. So as you can see, this is the portion that's changing. So if we wanted to create a path variable, there's a little secret trick here. It's kind of hidden. And what you actually have to do is get to the portion where you want to have as a path variable and delete it, and then just put a colon, okay? And then I'm gonna put path. And as you can see, if you look right down here, like look right in this area, when I start typing, this thing called path variables magically pops up, okay? Just magically pops up there. And that's because we're able to set path variables, okay? So I'm just going to call this path1, or path var1 or whatever, cool. And down here is where I'm able to actually set users or posts, or the value of the path variable. So the way this is working is, because this is preceded by a colon, this is considered a path variable in path var1. So whatever this is going to be filled in with whatever we type in here. So user, this is going to be the same as what we just had. Oops, users, sorry. There we go. So we have a user with the ID of 1, and then same with posts. Send. And it works as expected, okay? So this might seem a little bit clunky. It kind of is. I mean, right now for this example, like you wouldn't need to use it for this one, but it's very useful if perhaps you have an API where you're accessing something, like maybe you're accessing YouTube, right? You're accessing YouTube, and you have you want to access different comments on a video, and every comment has an ID, okay? But you want to iterate through all of them or something like that. Then it could be very simple, it might be like youtube.com, or whatever. Yeah, just pretend this is youtube.com, and then you could have or slash video one, whatever it is, slash comments slash, and then you could have the comment ID or something like that, okay? And then you would put in okay, comment ID, and then from there, then you could actually put in the different numbers and send it, and then change it and keep iterating and just keep going up and up and up, or whatever you wanted to do. It's very useful for that. And then of course you can have multiple ones, so comment ID, and then you could have whatever else after that, comment ID 2, etc. You guys get the idea. But let's go back to what we had before. Yeah, we don't need this. Oh, and the last thing I want to mention about these is, in order for this to work, this has to be part of the path variable, okay? And you see part in the path up here in front after the domain with all the slashes and stuff. It can't be part of the parameters, okay? So no, you cannot. If you wanted to go okay, path, and then ID, if you wanted to go ID here, then as you can see, it's getting changed here. It's not actually popping up as another thing here. So remember when I typed in path, then it magically popped up here, right? If I type another slash, and then I typed in here, and I typed in ID, see how it pops up down here? But if I type it in over here outside of the path and after the variables, the query string parameters, I mean the parameters after the question mark, then it won't work, okay? It won't. So we can't do it that way. That's the whole point of these down here, okay? Because you already have the parameters pretty much. So this is actually two parts of it. It's just this part is hidden. This is how you change. You can use put variables in this URL on the left side of the question mark, and this stuff up here, the query parameters, is how you use variables on the right side of the question mark. Okay, and that is pretty much path variables. So let's get into variables next. All right, so now we're getting into true variables, like real traditional variables. I recorded this whole segment and then it got deleted, which is kind of annoying, so I'm starting over. That's why this looks this different all of a sudden. But pretty much variables, true variables, allow us to pretty much put anything we want in here, anywhere at all, and specify what the variable is. So pretty much it is what it sounds like. Unlike path variables, where we're limited to only changing the path over here, like per parts of the path, or query string parameters where we're only able to change like parameters over here. Variables, we can change anything we want, and we can basically have full freedom with it. You can create variables at many different levels in Postman. So like one level is collections. So if you remember, we created this Amazon searches collection, then we can actually set variables at that level. That's what I'm going to demonstrate first, but you can also create it at the environment level or the global level. And just to explain what an environment is really quick, or actually we'll do that later. Let's just actually this video is gonna be better because I'm gonna go in a better order. So let's just create one at the collection level first. All right, so remember we had this collection that had 2 requests. We're searching for iPhones. Let's send that in, and you can see the response is already there, but we'll just send it again if it will hurry up. Bear with me, guys. There we go. So iPhones, and then also MacBooks, right? I'm not going to demonstrate this because it's already there. It's exactly the same. But let's say that in the collection, we wanted to set a variable to find some similarity between these two. So within these two requests, we can tell that this part here, amazon.com/s, S is short for search, is the same in both. So why don't we set that as a variable, okay? So let's just copy that and hit copy, and then go over here to collections, hit on this triple dot thing, go down to edit. And now that we're in here in this collection, there's actually a little tab here called variables. We go there, and now we can specify a variable. Okay, so let's just specify a variable called Amazon. All right, Amazon, and then the value we're going to give it is amazon.com/s. Okay, and it tells you the current value as well if it's changing over time. But let's just hit update. All right, and now we can see if we go back here, we go back to edit, then the variables, it should be there. There's a little green dot telling us that there's stuff in there, and we have Amazon. So now that we have that, the way we access a variable in Postman is to use double curly braces, just like that. Okay, and as you can see, it turned red to specify that, to show that we're using a variable now. And now we can pop in the name of the variable, which was just Amazon, and this will actually autocomplete to amazon.com/s. As you can see, if we hover over it, that little it actually tells you what the initial value of the variable was, and then what the current one is, and then also the scope. So these variables only apply to this collection. So if you use Amazon and anything within this collection, then it'll autocomplete to that. But any other collection or outside of it, it will not. Okay. So that's that. Let's hit send to just prove that it's still working. I mean, you guys can probably just take my word for it. You can test it yourself, but I'm just showing for proof reasons. There you go, that works. And then again, let's do the same thing, but let's just copy and paste it. Copy and paste. The reason, I mean, you could argue that this is also the same too, the question mark and the K equals the search term in both, which is true. But I mean, I don't think it's not very good practice to just like do that, because you don't want to like bridge the gap with the parameter question mark splitter thing here where the parameters start. It just doesn't make very much sense. Like you have like maybe like a separate variable, like keep the question mark there and then have like a search term or something. Okay, but let's just test to make sure this works as well. Get the get request for this one, the MacBook search, and as you can see, it works as expected as well. Okay, so this is pretty cool. I mean, you can have multiple variables, of course. in the collection and whatnot. But also there's a way you can split global variables and environment variables. Let's get into that now. I'll show you global variables. Well, actually, let me explain environments first. So we're actually going to get into environments next, right after this, in depth and how to create them and stuff. But I'm just going to explain what they are really quick. So if we go up here, this is kind of like where your environments are. There's a little rectangle here. It says you can select your environment. There's no environments created. We're going to create one later. But if you click on this little eye thing, then it says environment here and globals. Okay, so these are two other levels where you can create variables. So we just created at the collection level, which is like the lowest level, or one of the lower levels. And then now we're in environment. So environment is just a set of variables that allow you to switch the context of your requests. So that's pretty cool because we can set a bunch of variables within an environment, and then whenever we are in that environment, automatically everything has those variables applied, which is very cool. So and then if in global variables, of course, it just applies to all environments, okay? So this is like overarching no matter what. And then environment, so, but we can switch our environment and pick one to have like a set of variables set. So this is pretty cool. Like one example I just thought of is, let's say, you know how we're doing Amazon searches here? Maybe we have a, we also want to search eBay or something, okay? And they have like two different collections. Or I mean, yeah, or two different sets of, it doesn't have to be collection, there's two different sets of requests. We have two environments. Maybe we wanted to have like one Amazon search. So, or actually just like, I think a better way to explain it is if we wanted to have two environments, like one Amazon and one eBay, okay, then we could have our request be even simpler. So instead of, so this being Amazon.com, right? We could just have it be like website, okay? Or like shopping website or something like that, okay? And then have this as an environment variable. And then whenever this changes, whenever we change environments, then like in the Amazon environment, then the shopping website variable would be Amazon.com. And then the eBay environment, this variable would actually change to something else, so that these requests are like useful are still useful depending on which environment we are. So like, let's say we wanted to also check eBay for like MacBooks and iPhones. This is K for the search term for Amazon, but it might be different for eBay. But using variables, we could just say, okay, search term, something like that. And but I mean, this is always going to be the same, question mark, and then equals always going to be the same. But this gives us power here, because now if we're in the Amazon environment, we can just say shopping website is Amazon.com, search term is K. Mean /s too, right? We need /s. Oops, /s for Amazon. But we could keep that. We could include that in something, or it could be like search whatever. But the idea is that, yeah, you could use this same request for both Amazon and eBay to search for iPhones and MacBooks just by hot swapping the environment if we had the environment set up correctly. So that's pretty cool, okay? Because, yeah, just if you guys still aren't completely following, then it might be like Amazon.com/s and then search term equals iPhone. But eBay might be like ebay.com/search term equals iPhone. So it says term here, but it says K here, and then this is supposed to be /s, and then it says S here, but it says search here, or something like that. This isn't probably actually right, but I mean, that's just the idea of it, okay? So that is that. Let's put this back to Amazon. All right, because it's complaining that is an unresolved variable. There we go. And then make this K and send it again. Last thing I want to talk about. Oh, Amazon typos there. See, and that's actually a very good point. I was just about to explain that. The issue with variables though is whenever you have a bunch of variables here, especially have like 5, 10, whatever variables in your query request string here, then you can't actually see what's being sent, okay? Because the variable is hiding what is here. You don't have to keep opening, like, okay, if you had like a collection variable and then environment variable and then a global variable. Oh, global variables really quick. I forgot to mention that. Let's go to global variables. If you click on this little setting sign up here on the top right, okay, then you can go down here to globals, and you can actually set global variables. So this is like things that make sense to be global. So it could be like my name, value is going to be Aaron, okay, and then like there, and you just hit save, and then when you hit save, it just automatically saves it. If you go to globals, you can see it, it's still there, my name Aaron, and that pretty much just applies to everything, every environment, everything at all. I can use this anywhere I want. If I type in my name, it's just gonna autocomplete the Aaron no matter what. Okay, very simple. And you can delete them by clicking on the X here. But that's global variables, very straightforward. But getting back to what I was saying, sometimes if you're trying to troubleshoot with variables and whatnot, then it's very easy to make mistakes because you might have a bunch of variables and you can't actually see what's actually being sent. Like me, I just had a typo, right? But I might have not known that. Be like, why isn't my request working? What the heck? Oh, this is so annoying. I mean, first of all, you can hover over it, which is good because it'll tell you it's an unresolved variable. But also, if you just want to see like the exact raw static request that you're getting and the response you're getting, then you can use something called the Postman Console, which is like a no frills version of everything, sending the requests and responses. So we have our cool thing here with all the variables. But if you go to the bottom left here, the little thing, a little icon, when I hover, it says Postman Console. Let's click on it, and it'll open up a new window. And pretty much what this does is it just shows us all of our requests. So let's go back to Postman, and I'm using this variable here. I'm searching for MacBooks. Let's hit send. Let's go back to this, and as you can see, now this little get request just popped up. Okay, get amazon.com/s. See how it auto fills out the variable for us, and then it says search. Then k equals MacBook. We can collapse it, and then we can see the request headers, everything in here, absolutely everything, the response headers and the whole response body, but we can't see it because it needs to be larger. Anything larger than 1 megabyte can't be shown. But that's okay because we can just go down here to raw or pretty and get the response string there if we want, okay? But that's just a nice little thing to allow us to troubleshoot if we're having issues with variables. If we're using variables and we can't figure something out, we need to really like see at the low level exactly what's being sent and received. Then we can go here to Postman Console, okay? If you don't have this little icon down here on the left, then you can go to View, Show Postman Console, or use your little shortcut here. It might be different on Windows, but yeah, just look in like View or something, or Google it, and you can find the console or whatever version of Postman you're using. But that pretty much wraps up variables. For you guys, we're gonna get into environments next. A little bit involved, like actually creating environments and blah blah blah, and setting variables within those. All right, you guys, so now let's go over environments, okay? So I said earlier, an environment is just a set of variables, and that's exactly what it is. Like literally, it's just a set of key value pairs that we can turn on and have it applied to something, to whatever. I'm actually gonna do the example that I did, the Amazon and eBay. We're actually gonna do it. We're gonna go through with it and create a environment for Amazon and create an environment for eBay, and then be able to hot swap between those two environments to run the same amount of requests, the same series of requests, the same collection of requests to search both websites based on the environment. So before we get into the environment though, really quick, let's go to a collection. Here I'm in collections again. I'm on my Amazon searches, and then if I click this little arrow and click run, then I can actually run the entire collection, okay? Which is just gonna run each of these one by one. All right. We have a bunch of different settings here. I'm not gonna go over this right now. But let's just click run Amazon search collection, and it's running. It says a little progress bar here, 50%, running one iteration. No environment. That's note that it says no environment here. Very important. We're getting our responses back, and it's almost done. We're taking a little bit. There we go, and it's done. So get all our results back, run summary, yada yada. We're not going to go over this right now, but I just want to show you that you can run everything in a collection, all the requests in a collection, and it says no environment. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to create a collection of searches and then create different environments for depending on which environment we're running those searches in. In our case, it'll be Amazon and eBay, and then we can actually hot swap those environments in and run the same requests with those different environments, okay? Which is really cool because then we can create environments for maybe Google shopping or any other searching shopping websites that might exist. So yeah, let's start with just duplicating. Let's start with duplicating this collection. I don't want to get rid of it, that's why. So just go to duplicate. Cool. Here it is. And now let's close both of these. Don't save. And don't save, whatever. Did it save those variables? No, it didn't. That's cool though. All right, so let's go into here, and now let's just change the name of this to shopping website search. Cool. And then, actually searches. Okay, cool. And then here it'll just be, we'll rename this to just iPhone. So just iPhone. This one's going to be just MacBook. And then of course we can add more that we want whenever we want, but we're just going to do this. And okay, let's get started. So I think we should create the, actually let's do this first. Let's just no, I think we should create the environment first. So let's go up here at the top left. You can click this button and then this little window pops up, environment. We can click this, or you can just click this little drop down menu and click environment here, which is what we're going to do. So now the environment is just going to be Amazon. Okay. And then for variables, we can set all the variables we want for this environment. So what we're going to set is going to be, I believe, shopping website is think of what I used before, and then for us it'll just be amazon.com. Cool. And then also we're going to use search. Oh, sorry, actually we don't need these in here. Silly me. And then also we need search endpoint. Yep, search endpoint, and that will be just /s, and I guess you can put www. We don't need that, screw it. Like that, and then also search term, and that will be K. All right. So as you can see, we have amazon.com/s, and then we're gonna have our parameters, and it's going to be K, and then equals whatever it is. And but then we have these nice variables here. Okay, shopping website, search endpoint, and search term. Okay, so let's just add all these. All done. Here's our environment with the three things in there. And now let's go back to here. Let's go to here, and instead of Amazon, we're going to use shopping website. Okay, and then instead of search term, we're going to use search endpoint. All right, and then instead of K, we're going to use search term. All right, and yeah, then iPhone stays because it's supposed to be iPhone. So that is it. Let's send this. It's probably not going to work because we don't have the environment set for it, okay, for this request, which is okay. But let's go and do the same thing for MacBook. So actually, let's delete this one. Delete MacBook, and then just duplicate iPhone. Duplicate, and in here, we'll just rename this to MacBook. Cool. And then also we're going to just change this to MacBook. And that's pretty much it, okay? It's not going to work again. It's broken. Oh, it didn't copy all this over. All right. Copy that in. Just like that. Okay. We'll hit save. This one. Hit save on this one. Maybe that's why it didn't duplicate correctly, because it didn't save it. All right. So now that we have these two searches, this is going to search for iPhones depending on any website. So we have the website, and then whatever search thing we have to add on to it, and then also the term that is required to search for an item on that website. And we have the same thing for both, which is cool. But now that we have this, let's collapse this. Let's actually set up an environment now that will well, we already have the Amazon one set up, so let's just run that. Okay, so let's go to shopping website searches. Let's go to run. Okay, and hopefully I typed in all of these variables correctly. There's no typos. Let's go down to here. So as you can see, we have two searches, two requests here, iPhone and MacBook, with those variables in place. And then if we just go down to environment and we select Amazon, the one we just created earlier, and 1 iterations, no delay. You can set delays like between the searches I mean, through the iterations, like if you want to run everything twice, then you just put 2 iterations, and then you could put like delays and whatnot. But yeah, let's just go there. The main point was just environment. I just want to show you guys this, and then when we run it, you can actually see that the request that's actually being sent is amazon.com/s query parameter k equals iPhone. Okay, and same thing, amazon.com/s query search term equals MacBook. Okay, so everything's going correctly. It's just a bit slow. Sorry, this computer is not that powerful. I should probably use the other one, but it's not so bad. All right, cool. So they both work correctly. We got the green check marks, and that was running the collection with the Amazon environment. So now let's create an eBay environment, and then we can see how we can use 2 different environments for the same collection and run this collection over and over again depending on the environment we choose. Okay, so let's go to here. So new environment, and actually I think if we just go to Amazon, I think we can duplicate it. Is this duplicate, or can we duplicate? There we go, duplicate. Perfect. That makes it nice and easy. So now I'll just go into here, and instead of this, we're gonna say eBay. All right, and then now that we have all the same variables here, now I can't make any typos. Perfect. We can actually change it. So instead of Amazon.com, now we're going to have eBay.com, of course. All right. Update. Oops. eBay.com. And then the search endpoint, I believe, for eBay, I looked it up earlier. The search endpoint is a little bit weird. It's this. Okay. It's not just /s like Amazon. It's actually this. All right, and let's just pop those in there like that. Update. And then lastly, the search term is also kind of funky. It's ampersand underscore nkw, whatever that means, instead of just k. But the point is that we're gonna put these in here like this. Update. All right, so now we have Amazon and eBay. Let's close out of here. And now we have our commands here. Now if we go to this collection and we hit run, and this time we can select eBay or Amazon and then run the file or run the collection. Then we can see that we are getting ebay.com/sch/i.html, and that one too. And you can see that they both passed, and it was filled out correctly because of the environment we used. But we were actually running the same exact collection. It's just with different environments. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Like literally all environment is just a bunch of key value pairs. Let's go here again, environment, and you can just set them all. And then you have a bunch of different environments, and then you can like select these environments. Like if we're here in Amazon, okay, if we had this selected here, well, let's do eBay. Okay, if we're in eBay, and then we sent it, and we go to preview, then we can actually see that there was iPhone searches in eBay here, okay, because we have it selected. And same with MacBook, it is going to behave the same exact way. And there we go. Oh, and I realized I didn't actually show swapping. So really quick, we had the eBay MacBook search here. Let's just run this again. So running fresh. And then all we need to do, we see we have our MacBook search results on eBay. All we need to do is just hot swap to Amazon, the Amazon environment, and then run it again. The same exact request, we're just in a different environment. And if it'll load, suddenly we are on Amazon searching for MacBook as well, okay? So that's the power of environments. Now you could add on like different technologies. You could change this to like, oh, technology website searches, whatever, and then have like iPhones, MacBooks, I don't know, iWatches, whatever, Apple Watches, anything else you want. But yeah, that's environments, you guys. Hey, you guys. So now we're gonna go over writing scripts in Postman, specifically pre-request scripts. That's hard to say. As you can see right here that I'm clicking on, and also tests. You can write tests. The difference between these two is both of them are scripting pretty much, but pre-request scripts will run before it runs the request, and then tests run the tests after the response comes back. So it's kind of like, okay, where we can edit the request here by running scripts, and then when the response comes back, then we can run tests on the response to make sure things are coming back as expected. But right now I'm going to go over just pre-request scripts first. You can have this at many different levels. You can write these at the collection level, so it applies to like everything in a collection. When you run a collection, it'll run this script before every collection and every request. And likewise with likewise with tests, that it'll apply to all of the entire collection. As you can see here, I clicked on edit collection, and there's also a pre-request scripts and a tests option here for a collection. So you can write it at the request level like I am right now per request, or you can write the collection level, and I believe you can even write it at like other levels, but we will just be focusing on this because like if you understand one, then you can apply it to all the different levels and it works just fine. All right, so let's go back to I'm in this collection right now with the environment where we have the environment of Amazon, and then we're running the iPhone search term. And let's just say I wanted to change some variables. That's a very common thing to do in the scripts. Change some variables before we run the request. Okay, so let's say we have like, okay, we have this whole thing here and we're searching for iPhones. Well, I want to show you how maybe we could change that. So like, I mean, obviously we can just go to the parameters and change this iPhone to Apple Watch or something, right? Manually right here. But maybe we didn't want to do that. Maybe we want to like test it like on a different parameter or something, like, oh, if iPhone has no results, blah blah blah, or something, or if iPhone something or anything, then you can just change it like on some parameter. Like basically you have full flexibility because you're just coding out here. But I'm just going to show you how you can get variables and set variables, which is the most common thing you would do, most basic thing you would do in pre-request scripting. Okay, so if we go to this upper right hand thing on the environments, and then I click on globals, you remember that I set a global variable called my name and set it to my name, Aaron. The current value is currently Aaron. And this is all we're going to need. I'm just going to use this as demonstration purposes to show you how to do this. So we are in a pre-request script for this request. So what I want to draw your attention to is here on the right, there are something called snippets, a bunch of snippets here. And pretty much what these do is they just allow us it writes code for us automatically, very easily, so that we don't have to like code it all from scratch. So as you can see, we can get an environment variable, we can get a global variable, we can get a variable, we can set all these variables, we can clear variables, all this stuff. We can even send a request. We can send a request within the script before we send this request, and stuff like that. As you can see, like it's going to this URL, blah blah blah, and then like just printing the stuff out to the console. When I clicked on it, you saw that it auto-completed, which is pretty cool. But we're just going to use one just to show you. You guys, you can explore all of them yourself if you want. But in this pre-request script, I'm just going to get a global variable, okay? Well, actually, first, let's comment that out. This is Node.js, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So you probably need to know that to make use of it. But not really, because you can just use these snippets and kind of get it done. And if you know how to program in general, then you can kind of figure it out. But let's just do console.log first, okay? Let's just go hello world, okay? Just to show you how this script will work. We have this here, and let me open a fresh Postman Console. There we go, and it's going, and now it's empty. But let's run this request, okay? Go back here. And as you can see, hello world popped up in the console, all right? And before the request was sent. You see how that works? hello world was printed, and then the get request was sent. Okay, and then if we go back to Postman, we can see that, yeah, we look for iPhones on Amazon. Cool. Now that we know how to print, we printed hello world. Now I want to get, actually, let me delete this if you guys forgot. I want to get a global variable, so I just click on this snippet, and boom, that's how I get a global variable. Remember, I had the global variable of my name, so it says variable key. Every variable is a key value pair. So what is the key of that variable? Well, it was just my name, like that. Okay, and you can even see it auto completes for you with the initial, current, and scope. It tells you global, and then you just say my name, and then we can actually print this out as well if we needed to. Okay. So let's run this again. Go back to the console. As you can see, hello world printed out again as normal, but also Aaron printed out, which is the global variable my name. Okay, and then we sent the request because this is a pre-request script. So again, we can do all these cool things. You can also set variables within here, because of course you can code. You have full control over everything, and go like this, and then have variables in here, and then you could like check and be like, if my name equals Aaron, yada yada, you know, stuff like that, or whatever. However you want to type it out. Like, pretty much you can do anything you want in here. I'm just showing you the basics, and then you're free to problem solve as you wish. So that's how you can like set variables and whatnot and print them out in prescripts. One more snippet I want to show you is actually settings. So let's just set a global variable, and now it says they're asking for the variable key, so this is going to be my name. Okay, and the variable value, I want to put it to my last name, which is just Bernath. All right. So this is going to set. So we have we're just going to print out hello world, and then we're going to get my name, which is going to be Aaron. It's going to print out, and then actually let's close this so it doesn't get confusing. Let's open up a fresh one. This is irrelevant. I'm just showing you how to save a variable. I'm going to delete that, and then we're going to set it, and then we're going to do it, and then we're going to print it again. All right, just like that. So right now the global variable is Aaron right there, as you can see, and the Postman console is empty. And let's hit send on this get request. Wait for things to come in. As you can see, hello world popped up. Okay. Aaron, and then Aaron popped up because we printed it out, and then we set the my name global variable to Bernath, and then printed the Bernath variable, the my name variable again, which is Bernath, my last name, and then it sent the get request. Okay, and actually if we go up here to global variables, we can see that the value of the global variable is actually changed. Okay, so that is pretty much what you can do in pre-request scripts. I mean, you're able to basically modify all of the variables. Like if you wanted to modify these environment variables instead of, because we're in the Amazon environment variable, right? I mean, we're in the Amazon environment, right? So I could actually go in and get these variables out, like Amazon.com and /s and k and stuff, and I'm going there and actually change those just by calling these things, like get an environment variable. PM stands for Postmates, in case you're wondering. PM Postmates dot blah blah blah, or Postman, not Postmates. I guess I'm getting hungry. And then set environment variable too, same deal, and then regular variables, of course. So that's kind of the general idea. Maybe like you wanted to be able to change the iPhone thing, like I mentioned earlier. Basically you're able to just use code to do whatever you want with the request. So you have like full control over all of it. Okay, so that's request scripts. Now we're gonna get into testing, which is very similar. All right, so testing. So writing test scripts, like I said earlier, is testing the response that we get back from a request, okay? So we are going to try that now. So I found a different API here. Other one was giving me a little bit of trouble with it, but this one's cleaner and easier. The JSON is just cleaner. So we're gonna use this one. Let me just run the command so you can see what it looks like. It's HTTPS res, which is probably request response.in.api/users. It's just like a dummy API that we can use. There's some nice JSON here. Very similar to what you're using before, but yeah. So now let's write a test. Let's just go straight here and just start writing it. So this is the response we get back, okay? As you can see, there's a bunch of different stats here, like the status 201 okay, and the time it took and all that stuff and the size of it. But if we go to the snippets here, it's actually a little bit different than the pre-request script. If we go to pre-request script, we can see there's only a few here. But if you go to tests, then there's a bunch. There's a bunch of different ones, okay? So let's just go through some of them and explain the most common ones and some useful ones. Obviously, we can get environment variables and global variables, just like we did before. Environment variable, like we're currently in the Amazon environment, so if we looked up like the shopping website or something like that, let's take a look. If we looked here, if we typed in any one of these, we'd get the value out, okay? Same thing, we can actually set those from here if we wanted to after the test came back. So maybe like if the response came back and then we did find something, we did find a term or whatever, blah, blah, like we found what we were looking for, then we could like change some of the variables and run another request and like chain them together like that. But that's not what we're doing right now. You can again send a request, but here's one that is immediately catching my attention. That's pretty simple and easy to understand. Status code is 200. So if I click this, okay, this pops up. It says postman.test, status code is 200, and then it just makes sure that the status is 200. So when we ran this, we got a 200, okay? So let's just try to send this again and see what happens, okay? If we go to test results, it says there was no test for this request. But now if we go run this again, okay, with this test in place, as you can see, test results now has 1 out of 1. So let's go to test results 1, and then as you can see, it says it passed because status code is 200, because status code was 200, okay? But let's say we were checking for, let's say we type in a bogus URL, okay? So like I just type in a bunch of Fs here. This URL I don't think exists. When I run this, then maybe it does exist or something. I'm trying to get it to fail. Here we go. Send. API /users /10 or something. Come on, just give me a 404. When I need the 404 error, it doesn't pop up. Oh my goodness. All right, well, the point is, if I was getting a 404 error, then this would fail. Actually, let's go like this, okay? This will demonstrate what I'm trying to demonstrate. Let's just go to, there we go, test result failed. So the check we were making was we wanted the status code to actually be 404. We're trying to make sure that it is 404, and that's when it is considered passed. So since we got a 200, this is actually considered a fail. So it says fail, status code is 404. They expected the status code 404, but got 200, which is kind of a funny thing to check for, but that's just demonstrating the idea, okay? So that's testing results, pass and fail. And also when we run collections, like these test results come in handy, because when you run the whole collection, then all the test results come back together, which is nice, okay? But let's change this back to 200, okay? Because that's the proper functionality. And let's just keep going down a few more. So we can check for code is 200. What else? Response body contains string. So let's do that, okay? So contains string, let's just click on this, and then we're just making sure that there's something in here is there. So let's just grab Janet, okay? And then just like pop this in here like that. Hit send again, and as you can see, boom, now we have test results 2 out of 2, and it says body matches string, okay? Which is because Janet here is there. However, though, if we put Janet with a double T, then, or I don't know, let's put like Jackson instead. We're looking for Jackson inside here, which is not there, and we hit send, then we fail, obviously, okay? So it says body matches string, expected to see Jackson, but it didn't see Jackson. It's pretty much what it's saying. All right, but of course we can put that. We can put Weaver. This should pass again because there's Weaver right there. That'll pass, yep. And that kind of explains that one, okay? But now we are starting to get to more interesting things. So, there's also one here, response time is less than 200 milliseconds. This would be useful if like we wanted to make sure that our website is really fast or something, like make sure it responds quick enough. You know how Amazon was taking kind of a long time? Okay, like we could run like some tests in here and be like, oh, if response time is more than 200, then something's wrong, blah, 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 display something. Pretty much anything. We can just like test for the amount of time. But I mean, this is 200, but we could send it to 1,000 if we wanted to. We can put it to anything we want, all right? But let's just put 200. and run this as well. We should have 3 passes. Cool. And now let's instead of just looking at just one, let's look at all the users. We get the whole thing, and again we have all the passes because of course that Janet data was inside the entire thing, so it still passes. But now let's say where it gets interesting is another one is you can like check the content type header. So like, okay, make sure we're getting JSON back, or make sure we're getting HTML back, or make sure we're getting an image back or something. You can kind of like specify the content type that you're getting, just like enforce that. You can check that out if you want, but we're just going to check this last one here. It's called JSON value check. Okay, so this one is cool because it allows us to really dig into the JSON data, and then we can really check things and make sure that things were correct. Like if we posted something to an API and we created it, and then we want to make sure it posted correctly, when we get the response back, we can like dig into the JSON response and whatever and make sure like it was right and this and that. Like, oh, I'll make sure the post request was successful. Like actually here, there's another status code request to make sure that the post request was successful, because 200 is for GET requests, right? Mainly for GET requests. It's like, okay, status code 200, I found the web page, here it is. But anything 200 is good, but 201 and 202, I believe, is if you post something, it's like, oh yeah, we posted it, it's good, here's a response, blah blah blah. So I mean, you can do that. There's a bunch, you can check them all out if you want. But this, we're just gonna continue on with this one. So, sorry. So here, what's going on here is we are getting the JSON data back in the response. So the Postman response object, we are converting it to a JSON file or a JSON object with the .json, and then we just get JSON data here saved in a variable, okay? And now that we have JSON data, we're able to just use dot notation to dig into any of this JSON that we want, pretty much, okay? And then we can just say, oh, whatever data is in the JSON, it needs to equal something, and then we can use that as tests and assertions, okay? So let's just try this. So JSON data, so the first thing we have is page. Let's try page. So because we have JSON data, which is this here, this bracket here, then the very first thing is page. The very first level is page. So we can actually do this, and this should equal 1. So when I hit send, there should be a 4th test, and it should be passing. Oops. Don't know what the issue is. Oh, there we go. I think that was the issue. All right, there we go. I had a typo there. So test results, the page does equal 1, but like if we put maybe 2 here, which is not equal, then this should actually fail. And as you can see, yes, it does fail because the page thing here in this JSON is supposed to be 1, not equal to 2. But let's say we wanted to dig down like really deep, like arbitrarily deep. Let's dig back down to Janet again, okay? ID 2, and let's just make sure that her last name actually is Weaver or something like that, okay? Make sure her last name is Weaver. So how will we do that is, okay, we have our JSON data here. You guys probably have already figured this out if you know how to code, but I'm just gonna follow through for completeness sake. But we're not gonna go to page. We're gonna have to go to data, which is also the first level, so we can go directly to it. But then once we're in here, then we have a list. All right, so we have a list of JSON objects in here itself. So we want to find Janet. So this is the 0th one. This is the first one. So it would have to be indexed at 0 data. Now we're in here, okay? And now we can just keep using dot notation, and we want last name, right? So now we just type dot last name. Our last name, and now this should equal Weaver, okay? So I'm just gonna copy this, and I'm going to pop this in here just like that, but make sure it's a string, okay? Because it's a string type. And hit send, and this test result should come back as pass. Apparently not. Let's see what the issue is. Oh, because okay, this one. Let's say 500, less than 500. Now we should all have it pass. Make it a little bit easier on us. Okay, so actually this previous test failed. That wasn't the one that we just did. So pretty much this is working as intended. We're saying, okay, if the JSON data that we're digging down, blah, 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 of this key, if the value is equal to this, then we consider pass. If not, like if we put like WASI, cool. I don't know what that is, but if we use that, then it would fail, okay? You would say that the assertion error Weaver, but was expecting WASI. All right, so that is how you run test scripts in Postman for your response objects. Or from your HTTP responses or whatever you want to call it. You can also run these at the collection level, just like you could with the pre-request scripts as well. Okay, so when you run the entire collection, then all these tests will be run after it. And again, you can make variables in here, as you can see JSON data right here, and you have full control over everything in the code within your requests and your responses to really test anything you could imagine, pretty much. Okay, but I gave you all the basics that you guys need. Now it's your job to go out and actually apply these things to figuring out how to use Postman to solve whatever problem with APIs you're trying to solve, okay? But that's pretty much it for scripting, pre-request scripts and tests, and I'll see you guys in a few seconds to go over the next thing. All right, you guys, so now we're gonna go over pretty much the last thing in this Postman crash course, and that is setting up mock servers. All right, so I mentioned this a lot at the beginning of this crash course. I kept saying, oh, mock server this, mock server that. That's because up to this point, we've been doing a lot of client stuff. So we might have been working on or creating like dummy client requests, so we can like create basically any client request we want, and then we can send it to any existing API that already exists and then get something back. Okay, so we had flexibility around shaping what the client was happening with the client, but the APIs had to already be there in place. Now mock servers will allow us to do the flip option of that. Let's say the API doesn't exist. Okay, maybe we're developing a client and a server for a client or something, and both things need to be developed, but the server doesn't exist, but we need to build the client. Like one of them needs to exist to be able to test it. So we are able to work on the server and then send mock requests to the server using Postman, which is what we've been doing up to this point. We can just create whatever requests we want and ping the server. But let's say we're working on the client side and we need to send requests somewhere and get a response back, but the server doesn't exist yet. Okay, if the API doesn't exist, then we still need some way to test it. So that's where mock servers come in. We can create mock servers, which basically says, oh, if there's a request to this URL, to this specific URL on the server, then reply with this. We're basically going to be hard coding in responses to specific requests. So like if like, oh, this specific request ends with these specific headers and this specific URL and all this yada yada comes in, send back this specific response, be it JSON or HTML or whatever kind of data we're sending back, the entire response object with its own headers and everything. So it's kind of an overview of what we're going to be doing. Now we're actually going to Postman and go through actually doing an example with this. You can see how it's done and maybe understand it a little bit better. So let's first start with creating a new collection. Okay, so we need a mock server. We need a collection to create a mock server because every mock server has a collection associated with it. Remember, a collection is just a group of requests, and that kind of makes sense because we need a mock server up and running, and then we're going to have a bunch of requests that can be sent to that mock server, and it's just nice to have all of those requests together in a collection. Okay, so I'm going to call this mock server requests. Name of this collection, because it's just going to be a bunch of requests going to the mock server. And let's hit create. So that's done. But there's 0 requests in here. So let's just add 1 request really quick, and we're just going to call it request 1. All right. So this is going to be request 1, and we just need to, after we're done creating this request, basically we're going to have on the mock server know what to reply when this request 1, specifically this request 1, comes in. So let's just create request 1 there. Nice. So we have a collection. We have the request that we're going to send to the mock server, and now we actually need to set up the actual mock server within that's associated with this collection. So we hit this little button here, and if you go over to the right here on this tab, it says mocks. And it says this collection is not being mocked. Okay, a mock lets you simulate endpoints and their corresponding responses in a collection without actually spinning up a backend. So that means, yeah, if the backend doesn't exist, then we can simulate endpoints. Endpoints are just URLs, pretty much, like the path. Like, oh, if you reach this certain URL path, then do something, respond with something. So let's just click create a mock server, and now we're just going to create a mock server. So we're just gonna call it mock server. All right, very straightforward. Create a version tag. This is a little bit advanced. We don't need this right now. It's just saying if this server is going to correspond with a specific API version. Maybe we're actually working on a new version of an API instead of like creating something from scratch, and then we have to have a version, yada yada. But those are details that only matter when you're actually doing them. And then also you can have environments. I'm just going to click no environment, but you can choose to import all the environments for this mock server so that all the variables that you have in that environment are already existing, but we don't need that now either. And then make this mock server private. We could if you want, but then you'd need a API authentication key and all that stuff, and we're not going to set that up right now. So we're just going to keep it public. So let's create the mock server, and that was pretty easy, right? It says mock server created. We are done, and all you have to do is to call a mock server is just go to this URL. All right, this URL right here in orange. And pretty much what this is saying is, okay, this is your mock server. So when you go to this URL, anything that comes after this, like treating this as a domain, anything that comes after this can be created as a mock server API. So like, okay, if you like, okay, /users or something, this /users, then you're gonna have to need to send something back. Basically, this is just standing in for the domain. Maybe if we had an API in the future, like this would act like if we were actually working on a project that needed a server, like using PHP or whatever server code you want to use, or Django or Flask or whatever, then it would be like, okay, www.myserver.com/API or something instead of this here. But this is just a stand-in. All right, so that little URL is right here. It pops in. As you can see now when we go to mocks, then the mock server is here, and there's a URL associated with it, which is pretty cool. So we're basically saying when you reach this URL, then we are now interacting with our mock server. So now we can start creating hard-coded responses to specific requests. So if you click this button, it's going to copy the mock URL. All right, and now we're going to go to the request. Okay, let's close some of these tabs. We don't need these anymore. All right, so now we have the request open, and let's just pop in the mock server base URL, okay? The very base one, the domain, and nothing else. Let's hit send and see what happens. And as you can see, this thing pops up, okay? This is the response we got. So if we run a get command just to the base mock server URL that we have, then we get an error back, and it says mock request not found error. As in, whatever's associated with this, there was no response associated that we didn't find. And the message says, this collection does not have any examples. An example is something we're about to create. It's a thing in Postman right up here on this top right. We're just about to talk about it, but it says, this collection does not have any examples. Please add examples to the requests in this collection to enable mocking. Okay, so all an example is just the response we're going to send back for a specific request. So we're basically going to say, or let's just go here up the examples, okay? It says no examples added, save responses and associated request examples. So we're just going to click add example, okay? We get this new tab. As you can see over here, if it says get, this is a request. And then if we go here, this is an example. It actually says e.g. Which is the Latin abbreviation for example. For example. I think it's like ergo something. It doesn't matter. But so this is an example tab, and now we can see that this example is actually set up. So when we sent the request in, we got this response, and the cool thing is that this response is exactly the same as what this response down here is. Okay, that's because we're saying, oh, when we're in this example, we're saying when we hit this URL. With these parameters and these headers and this body. In other words, anything, the example request up here, anything in this white box, whatever this is specified exactly, whenever that exact thing comes in to our mock server, then give this exact response, okay? So this is the base mock server, and if we send that with no path coming after it, with nothing after it at all, and nothing else in it at all, send back this JSON data with a 404 not found status. Okay, and then have all the headers and stuff too. Okay, this is JSON and this is clearly JSON. So when we go back to the request and we send this again, that explains why we're getting this. Okay, send. That's why we're getting this like error thing. This is actually an error that was auto created by Postman. Now let's say we actually typed in something crazy, like whatever, a bunch of stuff, and then we hit send. Then we get the same issue. I think Postman is just like auto completing to whenever there's something that doesn't exist, then this pops up, which is very handy. But what we want to actually do is create a new example, or did I save it? What we actually want to do is create a example for maybe another endpoint, another URL, so we can actually see how that would go down. Okay, so let's go. Let's just duplicate this to make it clear. So duplicate this, and we are going to rename this to request 2. Okay, and copy that in there, and then we're just gonna say users. Okay, and then here, this example, well, actually we can just go back up here and just create another example, and then we're going to call this response 2. All right, so we have request 1, response 1, which was just the base, and we're getting back this error. And then now we're doing request 2 and response 2. So now I actually want to add in something different. So if we actually reach this URL endpoint, the mock server or base domain plus users, then I want to reply with something different. Okay, so here we have it filled out. Parameters, I'm just going to keep it light. It makes sense. It should be pretty straightforward that you can put in whatever you want in here. Okay, but I'm just going to keep it empty because that's unneeded. So we're just saying when we hit this URL endpoint, then send a 200 OK response, and then let's send you could just send raw text, so it could be like okay, hi, whatever, but let's just send back JSON data. So let's check JSON data. As you can see, you can send back XML or HTML or anything, but let's just send back JSON data, and it says /users. So let's just make some dummy JSON data. Okay, so this is going to be the hard-coded response that we're going to have to this very specific request, and then let's just say users like that, and then we'll just say like name is Aaron and ID is 1. Cool. And then let's just do the same thing. There we go. But let's change this to name is Kazi and ID is 2. Okay. Very straightforward. So I just created some dummy JSON here as a response. So now we're saying on this mock server, whenever somebody goes to this mock server /users, then reply with this JSON data. Okay. This JSON data with the 200 OK response. Okay. And I think we need to actually set some of the headers too. So let's just go into here to the other one and maybe just copy all these. Or let's just run it and see what happens, okay? So let's run this. All right, guys, so yeah, I don't know why I wasn't getting the correct one. Maybe I didn't save it or something, but now it's working. So I created this hard-coded response with this JSON down here, like we just did a few seconds ago. And now I go into this /users endpoint URL. And now when I go to request 2, and I go to that same exact URL with the same endpoint /users, and I hit send, then it works as expected. I didn't change anything, okay? I don't know what it was. I think it was I just don't think I saved. But if we view this as JSON, then you can see that the response we get is exactly what we said the example should return. We said the example should return this stuff if we go here. And when we actually go there on a request, that's what we get back. Very, very straightforward, okay? Originally, I thought it was because all the headers weren't there, but we don't need all of them. But I mean, we can fill it out if you wanted to, all these headers here. The easiest way would just be like actually duplicate this other one that has all of them in there. Here, and then all the headers are already there, and then just copy and paste all of this code, this JSON response instead, and to here like this, okay? paste that in, and then let's just actually call this response 2.5 and say /users. I guess we're doing this really quick, and save that. Okay, should be saved. Users, yep. And let's just put Aaron2 and Kazi2 just so we're aware that it's the right one. A little difference in the response. So that's saved. Let's just delete this one, I guess. Response 2. Yep, delete. And there we go. So that doesn't exist anymore. Now this example should be associated with this endpoint. So now when we go to this endpoint again and we hit send, then as you can see, Aaron2 and Kazi2 pop up, which is the change we made, and all the headers are there, okay? Which is the ones we copied over. So as you can see, it auto-completes to JSON. Before, remember, it was just like, oh, auto-completing to HTML, and it was looking kind of ugly. That's because we didn't have the content type set to JSON and stuff, because there was no headers. And some of these headers are mandatory by good practice, pretty much. But that really simplifies things if we just copy over all of the headers from the original example, okay, over here. And that's pretty much it, you guys, for mock servers. So you're able to create a collection with a bunch of requests in it, and then you have a mock server base domain associated with that collection, and then all the requests you send to that domain can be given hard-coded responses by creating examples, okay? And that's pretty much the overarching logic of it. Very simple, just remember that, and you guys can pretty much set up any mock server you want. So any request that comes in, you can specify exactly what you want to get sent back. So it makes it very easy for developing client-side servers or client-side APIs and whatnot. So that should be it for the Postman crash course, pretty much. Thanks you guys for watching. Hope you guys learn a bunch, and I hope you guys have fun playing around with APIs, whether it be your own or ones you find on the internet yourself. There's a lot of cool ones out there. But yep, that pretty much wraps it up, you guys. Goodbye.
Hey, what's up you guys? So if you like that video, we have an epic 3-part free masterclass that teaches you how to go from complete zero to becoming a 6-figure freelance developer with Python. If you want to check it out, click the link below in the description. There should be a place where you can put in your email and your phone number and your name, and you can sign up and you can get direct access to that. There's a lot of free value there. Just go check it out. I think you'll really like it.